Areena.
This week we go ice swimming as we look at ways of staying active during the long Finnish winter. And we also hear about that perennial battle between skiers and walkers on Finland's forest trails. Hello and welcome to All Points North. I'm Ronan Browne.
And I'm Egan Richardson.
Right, so it's January, we're in Finland, and it's quite cold. I think we all find it a little bit hard to get out there and do stuff during these winter months. But at the same time, the mental and physical health benefits are also pretty well known. So this week we're going to talk to people who have come to Finland from abroad, and we hear how they stay active during the winter months.
Now, that of course means that these people missed out on the crucial primary school skating and skiing lessons, and like me, started their life on skis and skates as adults with a less than steady footing.
Yeah, same for me. I missed out on that crucial lessons, and you can tell in my lack of skating and skiing skills. But our colleague Priya has been meeting lots of new starters in winter sports, and we'll hear from her a little bit later in the show. But we're going to start this week with the first in a new series, which we're calling Ask Us Anything. So, as the name applies there, we want you to ask us any questions about the news or about life in Finland or anything else that's on your mind. And when you ask, we'll go answer. So you can submit your questions on +358 44 421 0909. And I should say there are extra bonus points for voice notes on WhatsApp because it means we can drop your question right into the show before we go and find that answer.
Or, of course, you can send an audio file by email to allpointsnorth@yle.fi. Kathleen Martin from Hämeenlinna did. Along with her husband, JT Lindroos, she's long been concerned about the lack of maintained walking trails in the forests during winter. Now, it's a perennial battle between skiers and walkers, but could there be a solution? Here's Kathleen outlining the problem.
We wrote to APN and to the local Sanomat forest and city officials back in November 23 about the unfair banning of pedestrians on the wide, level, and lit Aulanko Nature Reserve trails near us during much of the winter season. The arguments against any compromise so that skiing and walking can coexist were uniformly similar. Too dangerous for the walkers, too much trouble and expense to add or alter signs with new rules, or somehow pedestrians who currently respect the signs banning them altogether will not respect signs of sticking to trail margins and no pets allowed. We pointed out that tax monies from those who do not ski are currently used for signs and maintenance for those who do. Common sense fairness suggests that some small portion of tax collection be allocated to the rights of pedestrians to also breathe forest air in the winter on those wide, level, and lit trails with appropriate new signs. It's a fair and inexpensive request. Why should everyone subsidize the sport of skiing when, wisely enough, we expect other sports requiring a large tract of land to be privately subsidized by the enthusiasts themselves? Why should only skiers get to breathe fresh forest air all winter? I've seen Suomi Sisu create common-sense solutions and innovations for the public, and we are certain a more equitable sharing of public land all year long can be achieved if long-standing ski biases are set aside and heads are put together for a solution that's fair to both pedestrians and skiers.
So this is a big question for winter maintenance crews across the country, and we did raise the issue for Kathleen last winter as well. Back then, we spoke to our colleague, Pekka Holopainen from the sports department, who was not that sympathetic. He's a real skier, and he felt that skiing should be the priority in the winter.
Yeah, that's a commonly held view. I think Finns do tend to see cross-country skiing as a sort of a cultural activity as much as a sporting activity. And that means that in many places, these forest trails are given over to the skiers once the snow arrives, or they get the priority.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be like that. I asked Suomen Lattu, the largest Finnish outdoor association, what solutions there might be. They pointed to a project they have about winter trails, or talvireitit, that aims to provide well-maintained trails for those who want a pleasant forest walk in the winter. The goal is to offer accessible paths, rather than hiking trails that could be difficult for those less mobile. And it is aimed at local councils responsible for maintaining those trails.
Okay, that sounds very positive, but there's no actual national policy in place for this, is there?
No. It depends on the local council, and there are nearly 300 of those.
Right, yeah, so it could vary wildly from region to region, I guess.
It does.
And it does, yeah. But I guess that means that it's all about advocating in your own local area if you want to see more of these winter trails for walkers. In fact, it could even be a question for in the upcoming local elections for candidates.
It could indeed. Maybe we'll ask candidates ourselves. But Suomenlahti did mention that there's one shining example in Lahti where they have this winter trail, Talvireitti, with space for people walking and running, as well as skiers.
Okay.
So it's kind of separated. But the trail is well maintained. It's a good surface to get your steps in.
Right, yeah.
Even when it's snowing.
So skiers and walkers can live together in harmony.
With a certain amount of separation. You can't ski on the same trails because walkers might damage the skiing surface, and skiers obviously need a very flat surface. But it is possible with a little bit of effort from the local council, but they need to know. So if you, like Kathleen, want better walking routes in the winter, you should contact your local council and direct them to the Talvireitti Opas on the Suomenlahti website. And not to turn this into an advert for Suomenlahti, but they do have other resources too, including extensive information on everyone's right in English. That's the right to go and walk basically wherever you like in Finland within reason. That's aimed at people looking to go on more demanding hikes.
Okay, so that was walking, and I think we can all agree that walking is probably the easiest way to stay active during the winter. But what about people who want to do something a little bit more demanding? And to find out more about that, I spoke to our colleague Priya about an article she recently wrote. She spoke to several people who have moved to Finland from abroad, and then they took up winter sport as an adult.
Yeah, when I started doing this story, I got curious on where do people start if they want to learn how to ski or skate, especially as adults, because you're challenged when compared to kids when it comes to balance, and learning a new skill is obviously tougher in your adulthood, especially when it comes to using your body and on a precarious surface like ice or snow. So I asked a lot of people, and the responses were interesting because a lot of people just tried it with friends because they felt safer. And some said that they did not feel comfortable doing it with friends because they were not sure if their friends would know how to teach them because they've done it all their lives and it seems so obvious to them. So they sought professional help and they went for classes. So everyone had a different experience, but I think everyone agreed that it's a great idea and it makes you enjoy the winter more. So you don't want to just hole away inside your home or stay indoors and hide from the winter. You want to actually get out and do something. Okay.
And any particular inspiring stories that you heard during your research?
Yeah, I spoke to one girl called Mariana from Mexico. When she started speaking about how freeing it is to be on ice and skate for long distances, she goes on these 20-kilometer trips on Näsijärvi here in Tampere, and she spoke about how you're just going and then it's just you and nature, and you just feel so free on ice. And she also sent me some videos and pictures of her adventures and her journeys, and it looked so amazing. I thought it looked so liberating to be able to do that and absolutely embrace the winter instead of being scared of it or thinking of it as something to endure.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that particularly surprised you while you were working on this story?
I was surprised to learn that you can borrow winter sports equipment from libraries across Finland. While doing research for the story, I found that the Helmet Library Network in Helsinki, the Pirkanmaa Library Network, Hämeenlinna, a lot of the libraries offer skiing or skating equipment, even snowshoes. Of course, it depends on availability and they're often booked out, but it was fabulous to know that you can get it for free from your local library.
I would never have thought that.
Yeah, exactly. So if So if you can do that, that's great. And of course, everybody recommended getting used equipment from the Kirpis. There are these special sports. There are special thrift stores for sports equipment. So apparently, you will find stuff in your size. So it's an easy way to get into the sport without having to invest in expensive gear.
Well, I guess it is great advice to get out there and do something during the Finnish winter, because the Finnish winter is already quite long, and it would be even longer if you don't do anything at all. But was there any little piece of advice or tip that you heard during the compiling of this story that particularly stood out?
Yeah, lots of them just said, don't take it too seriously. It's not like you're going to compete, or you're not trying to get really great at it.
To the Olympics.
Yeah, you're not going to the Olympics, no. So the biggest tip that I got from people learning is that just have fun with it. Make a fun day out of it. Go with friends. Make it. You can laugh about it. You will fall and you will laugh, and it's okay. As long as you have your safety gear and helmets and everything in place. The whole idea is to enjoy it, and also, discover that child in you who thinks it's okay to fall on ice and it's not embarrassing. You're learning something new, and kudos to you for that.
And that was Priya Ramachandran D'Souza, our colleague here at Yle News. You can read Priya's article about foreigners in Finland trying out winter sports on our website at yle.fi/news.
Now, I have to say that something Priya said really resonated with me just at the end of the clip there about just getting out there and doing something. So I'm going to confess here that there's one winter activity I have actually stubbornly avoided in my 14 years of living in Finland. I can see, Egan, you know what I'm talking about.
I do, yeah. I love this particular activity.
Yeah, it's the avanto in Finnish, which directly translates in English to the hole in the ice, but it essentially means going swimming in a frozen body of water. Like they cut a hole in the lake and you plunge into the icy depths, I suppose. But
it's fantastic.
Okay.
You've been missing out in this past 14 years.
So many people have told me, and I've ignored them all. But once Priya said that, I got to thinking about my previous avanto experience. So you may remember, Egan, we had two students come over from Ireland.
JJ and Tierna.
Yeah, about 5 years ago. They worked with us for about a month, and they came to visit me in Tampere for a day, and they were very enthusiastic about trying out ice swimming. So me being a good host and everything, and my guests being Irish, I decided that I really had to go and do it with them.
I do remember that, and I do remember that you were not a fan.
No, it was horrendous. It was a horrendous experience. I thought it was going to be bad, and it turned out to be even worse. But I think I did it wrong. So after I spoke with Priya earlier this week, I called my friend Peter Bull, who I know is an avid ice swimmer, and I asked him if I could join him on his next avanto adventure. So we went along to Kaupanoja sauna in Tampere.
That is an excellent sauna. I know it well. And I guess I should mention at this point that Tampere is a bit of a sauna cluster. And the city brands itself as the sauna capital of the world. And personally, I do try and take a sauna every time I go there. There are lots of different options, different types of saunas, old saunas, new saunas.
Public saunas, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you're not the only one there, because I believe there's sort of a domestic tourism drive towards Tampere. People come from all over to come to the city to experience this public sauna thing that Tampere has going on. And it is great.
Not to turn it into a Tampere advert.
True, yeah. But if it was, Tampere is a great city.
It is, I agree with that. Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to Kaupanoja, before we actually did go ahead and jump into the icy waters, I asked Pete how he first got hooked on this particular winter pastime.
Oh, wow. So I first met my wife 20 years ago. Well, she wasn't my wife at that point, my girlfriend. And my first winter visit to Finland, I was almost kidnapped by my parents-in-law, whisked into a car, not told where I was going. They drove me to Kaukiari beach and to the Laitari there, and told me I had to get in the water, basically. I had my swimming trunks on. There was no sauna. And so that was my first real experience of Avanto in Finland.
What time of year was it?
That was winter. That was deep winter. That was
Okay.
Christmas time. So yeah,
Wow.
it was pretty traumatic. The first time.
Baptism of fire.
Yeah, definitely.
And how often do you go now?
Probably 3 times a week, I would guess. Try to do 3 times a week, once every other day, something like that.
Okay, so you stuck with it. So I really need to ask, like, why do you do this to yourself?
Oh man, it's complicated, isn't it? Because every time, it doesn't matter how many times you've been to the Avanto, the water, you still ask yourself that question, well, what am I doing to myself, knowing the pain that lies ahead? But it's that first kind of 15, 20 seconds, and you're breathing through it, and then you're in the water, and then you almost get to a meditative state. That's what I get to. So it's practice, of course, very much so. But yeah, the benefits, great.
What are the benefits, though?
Just regulating my mood. So work-wise, it gives me that hit of dopamine. It's well documented now, the advantages of cold water plunging, and also manages stress as well. So it brings down the cortisol levels as well. So it doesn't matter what job you're doing, it just ticks both those boxes really.
Okay, and as we were coming down here, I said to you, I've only done this kind of once, many years ago. Do you have any tips for a newbie like me?
We start slowly. Whenever I bring someone to the Avanto for the first time, I say just go with your feet a little bit more each time, and try not to focus on the cold. Try and get to breathing through it. And yeah, you come to a place where it's quite magical. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's see how I do.
Good luck.
What are you thinking now that you're in there?
Not really feeling the cold. It's cold, but I'm not really. It's not something my mind is focused on. It's quite calm in the water, so not really feeling it. I'm kind of on the extremities of the skin. The pleasure comes obviously going back to the sauna.
Right, yeah.
After
Do you try to distract yourself, or what do you think about when you're...
going in I need a little distraction, but yeah, normally it's just breathing and focusing on something either in the distance or pleasurable, and then once I'm in below the shoulders, it's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay, so as Pete mentioned there in the clip, the benefits of ice swimming have been very well documented. And in fact, just this week, the BBC published a video article which was entitled "The Finnish Secret to Happiness, Avanto and Loulu." Loulu, of course, is the steam that comes from the sauna.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be becoming a wellness trend in other parts of the world too. And I do know that lots of footballers post videos of their ice bath activities. Most recently, Cristiano Ronaldo when he visited Lapland.
Yeah.
But also other footballers just jumping in an ice bath in the changing rooms after they've been training or played a game. And I think that has made a lot of younger people aware of the health benefits.
Yeah, it's certainly a trend. And this is just anecdotal. I've absolutely no figures to back this up. But I've noticed when I go back home to Ireland, there's an incredible increase in the number of barrel saunas near beaches or near lakeways beside the lake. I'd say almost everywhere I go, I see one of these barrel saunas, and always with a Finnish sauna oven.
I've seen the same thing when I go back home to the UK. And I have to say, I love that people are getting into this. I think it's a nice thing to do. But the design of the saunas, having lived in Finland for a while now, I can tell when a sauna is well designed, when it's properly insulated, when there's ventilation, when the stove is far enough beneath the sauna goers to actually warm their feet as well as their head.
Right, yeah.
And many of these smaller barrel saunas in public swimming pools or just there's one in Sheffield that's just in the centre of town now. It's next to a pub. I don't know how that's going to work. I might try it the next time I go, but yeah, I can see design flaws, and I might be too critical, and I might ruin the vibe for everyone else there who might be enjoying it. So I would like warn people, if you're going for a sauna outside Finland, they might not have everything perfect.
Yeah. And I think that one of the worst sauna experiences when your feet are freezing cold and your head is on fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see what's happened to us? We've become sauna snobs. That's what happens after
We're
amount of time.
sauna snobs now, yeah. It's terrible.
What happens after you've been in Finland for this amount of time. But anyway, getting back to Tampere, me and Pete spent about an hour going between the sauna and the lake, and afterwards we had a quick chat about it all. Okay, so how are you feeling now after being in there?
How are you feeling now after being in there?
Well, actually, good question. I mean, it was a tough day today, and I brought some worries here with me, but I feel now like I've left them out there in the lake.
Yeah.
How about you?
That's pretty much how I would describe it every day. I know it's my quick fix. 1 hour sauna and Avanto. It's definitely the easiest way to spend an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my last question for you today is going to be, why would you recommend this for someone who maybe is hesitant about trying the Avanto?
Nature does all the things. It fixes you in the ways that we know it does. Sunshine, water's the same. For me, the colder the water, the more pleasurable the experience. It takes time, but definitely benefits long term are massive for me.
And that was Peter Bull there, ending that report from the Kaupanoja sauna in Tampere. Now, I have to say, honestly, I really, really enjoyed the Avanto experience a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I'm definitely going to go again.
That's great to hear. I do heartily recommend it. It did get me through a lot of winters back when I lived in Tampere. I don't go as much as I'd like these days. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Yeah, and so would I. As someone who resisted for so long, it's incredible. Like I should have been doing it all this time. But for anyone who was like me, hesitant about it, I would say if you're thinking about going there, it's good to go for the first few times with someone who has experience of the Avanto. I think for me, having Pete there and his advice about going in gradually and getting my breathing right and all that, it helped a lot. And it meant that this Avanto experience was so much better than my first Avanto experience when I basically just dived in.
That is very good health advice. Generally, there is a sign at one of the saunas in Tampere which says in English and Finnish, do not go alone to the hole in the ice.
Right.
Because there is a risk that if you get into trouble, if you go into shock, then if there's nobody else there, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Do go with somebody else, especially the first few times.
Absolutely. That's become a meme, that one, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Okay, but before we move on from this section, I want to issue a reminder about our new series, Ask Us Anything. So please do exactly that. You can send messages or voice notes via WhatsApp to +358 44 421 0909. And you can also email the show allpointsnorth@yle.fi.
And now for a quick roundup of what's been making the headlines in Finland this week. The Washington Post reported that Finnish intelligence officials now believe that damage to crucial undersea cables over Christmas was caused by accident. That view was dismissed by critics, including a former intelligence official turned MP. An expert from the Hybrid Threat Centre said it was highly improbable that 3 ships' anchors would fall off accidentally in the same area within a year.
Donald Trump began his second term as President of the United States this week, and Finland's political leaders reacted with a mix of welcoming him back to the White House while also urging people to keep a cool head, in the words of Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo.
Yle's sources suggest that the government will not eliminate the requirement for unemployed people to send 4 job applications per month. That had been the plan last autumn, to ease the burden on employers sorting through all these applications, but for now the government seems keen to keep the demand in place.
And the Finnish broadcasting company YLE has announced the end of co-determination talks aimed at trimming about 60 million euros from the company's budget. As a result, some 309 jobs will be lost at the public broadcaster after a cross-party parliamentary group agreed budget cuts last year. Around half of that number of 309 will be redundancies, with another half coming from retirements.
And if you're looking for tips on cheaper groceries, check out our article on a dumpster diving chemistry teacher from Helsinki. He's been scavenging for discarded food since 2011 and now travels nationwide in search of edible rubbish. You can read that story at yle.fi/news.
And a contractor in Helsinki has admitted damaging the city's much-loved cherry tree orchard in Herttoniemi. Around 100 trees were over-pruned and will have a reduced blossom display in springtime for the coming 4 years.
One Morning Left, a band competing to represent Finland at Eurovision, have withdrawn from the contest after serious allegations surfaced on social media. The band said it was disbanding in the wake of the revelations.
And finally, in sports news, the Finnish Football Association has appointed Jacob Friis to take over as manager of the men's national team. Friis is something of an unknown quantity as an international manager, as his most recent role was as assistant coach of German top-flight side FC Augsburg. Here is Finland's new football manager speaking to Yle.
I rather don't want to, say change something from something before, because that would be the same of saying that there's something wrong with what have been before. And so I rather look at what I can do and how I can put the best team together with the right mix of players, so we can perform together when we start against Malta. That's more my focus on what we can do, I can do, rather than what have been before.
Okay, Egan, we're both relatively knowledgeable football fans, so what do you think about Finland's new football manager?
I hope he'll do really well. I mean, in international football, you're kind of limited in what you can do because you can't sign players, obviously, from Sweden or other countries. But I think it's all about building a spirit within the squad and getting the best out of the players you have. And I think this kind of coach, this kind of football hipster, tactical nerd from the Bundesliga, not saying that in a disparaging way, I think that's the right kind of guy for this job.
Yeah, like he was a bit of a surprise appointment. I don't think his name appeared on any list that I saw, but you have a little bit of experience with this hipster coach coming from Germany and doing quite well.
Oh God, yeah, this archetype. If you're not familiar with football, apologies for this digression, but this archetype of a 30-something or a younger guy from the Bundesliga who's done a degree in sports science and has very advanced tactical knowledge and can get the team playing high-tempo football. One of those manages the team I follow in the UK, Danny Röhl, manager of Sheffield Wednesday, and he is genuinely one of the best managers I've ever seen work in game situations, developing players, doing the best with what he's got. Yeah. And I think doing the best with what you got is the task for the manager of Finland. Because like I said, you can't swap players out. And I think one of the things Finland have historically struggled with is kind of progressing the younger players at a quicker rate. They're still young until they're like 25 in Finland, whereas other countries might give the better players a chance when they're 18, 19. Yeah. So hopefully he can develop those players and give them the tools to succeed when they're a bit younger and keep the strong team spirit, which is always Finland's biggest weapon.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Well, Finland kicks off their World Cup qualifying campaign in March. I think it's games against Malta and Lithuania, so we'll see what he comes up with. I think we're cautiously optimistic, but we wish him the best.
Yes, good luck to the Eagle Owls for those games.
You can join the conversation too. We want to hear what's on your mind. Just leave us a voice note or text on WhatsApp. Our number is +358 44 421 0909.
Okay, and that's about all we have time for this week. But before we go, Egan, any Arena tips for us?
Yes, I've been watching The One That Got Away, a 6-part Welsh crime drama set on the scenic Pembrokeshire coast. And it's definitely worth a look if you're into that kind of British crime drama.
Okay, can you give us a bit more about the plot?
Well, many of these are quite similar, so this might sound familiar if you if you've ever watched one of these before. But the two detectives are reunited to solve a murder that looks like it might be a continuation of a previous set of murders they solved 12 years ago, with a bit of personal drama in there as well.
Right. Are we talking about a detective who plays by their own rules but gets the job done, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Right.
Indeed. But was that the right thing to do? Who knows?
You need to watch and find out.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. All right, but aside from watching Welsh detectives, do you have any plans for this weekend?
Nothing special, but I'm going to really try to catch the Gothic Modern exhibition at Athenaeum in Helsinki before it ends on the 26th of January. How about you?
All right, so Sunday I am going to miss it, but yeah, that looked really interesting. You know, I think I'm going to go and build on my newfound love for Avanto, for ice swimming this weekend.
That sounds like a very good use of your time. I hope you enjoy it. But I guess that is all we have time for today. So I'd like to say a big thanks to our audio engineer, Laura Koso, for putting the show together this week. And to you, our audience, for listening, subscribing and supporting All Points North. We hope you have a good weekend wherever you are, and do let us know if you're doing anything special. See you again next time. Bye.
Bye.